My Hero Academia has been going strong for roughly 6 years now, and I have to honestly say that the manga and the anime, for the most part, has been really enjoyable, and the manga has just kept me invested week after week ever since I caught up over a year ago. Even reading the My Hero Academia Vigilante spin-off manga, I just have to say this series has got all the potential that it needed, and it's exceeding every expectation that I've had initially. And one of the aspects that really helped drive this series home for me was All for One. This villain, while very intimidating and game-changing from the third season of MHA onwards, having ripple effects throughout the story, is still relevant and talked about from the very beginning, alluded to, and then brought about all the way to center stage right now in the manga. This video is going to contain major spoilers for both My Hero Academia's main series and the manga, as well as My Hero Academia Vigilantes. I might have a video on Vigilantes as a whole somewhere down the line. I'm not entirely sure yet. I want to wait till this current arc wraps up before I make any general videos about it.
But before we get started with today's video, be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe for some more amazing content from the Greek Weeb. My name is MrCakeDragonMan, and I'm one of the many editors that the Greek Weeb hires to make the best videos in the YouTube anime scene. If by any chance you're interested in helping us out financially, you can donate to the Greek Weeb Coffee or the Patreon page. If by any chance you are interested in doing any of that stuff, you'll be getting some amazing prizes, such as your name at the end of every video, being added to a Patreon only Discord, and many more great things. We here at the Greek Weeb wish to thank everyone for the support that we have gotten so far. We are very close to hitting 1,000 subscribers on this YouTube channel, so if by any chance you want to support our boy Chris as well as us, then definitely subscribe, donate to the Patreon. With that being said, let's get right back to the video.
Now, as I stated in this brief introduction, All for One, after being defeated in Kamino Ward, has been talked about and has essentially been in the background of every single character's minds and even readers' minds throughout the current story of My Hero Academia, wondering what's going to happen now that seemingly one of, if not the big bad of the series, has been locked up and put in jail. And one of the biggest theories was a breakout from Tartarus and how this could occur. At the end of the war arc, we got the full-blown breakout of All for One from Tartarus. Other villains from said prison were broken out, and also villains from other prisons across the country, causing a grand total of chaos and destruction amongst all of Japan, bringing it towards where previous characters have alluded to as the time when quirks were at their all-time high, when they were just being revealed and no one knew how to fully control them or regulate each other in how to use them. All for One has essentially created a basically paradise for himself and villains as he's becoming the king of evil, the demon king that he has always dreamt of being from when he was young. But that's not primarily what I'm going to talk to you about. What I'm going to say is how All for One has basically got the Sosuke Aizen, the Madara Uchiha levels of planning and basically sowing the seeds for what has come to be in the manga through not just the main title, but also through My Hero Academia's spin-off Vigilantes, which is a prequel that also has flashback arcs that primarily focus on other specific characters in MHA, but also characters that you do not expect to show up in the manga. And both of those main flashbacks had primarily to do with All for One, either directly or indirectly. Now, as we all know, especially if we're caught up to the manga, Shigaraki has been raised by All for One to basically be the next All for One, having Shigaraki gain the original All for One quirk right after awakening his full power once more in the My Villain Academia arc, essentially showing the level of preparedness and faith he had in his plan to make Shigaraki his essentially new him, the brand new All for One, and also help in the assistance of him breaking out of Tartarus and causing this new age of chaos. All for One had his original All for One quirk removed, primarily thanks to Dr. Ujiko and his genius, most likely due to the All for One quirk itself, and either passed it directly onto Shigaraki, or just had it saved up somewhere for the doctor to implant into Shigaraki, and had a copy of it implanted into himself to not raise any suspicions that the quirk quirk, the main quirk has either already been passed on secretly or is being stored up for when his successor will gain it. Other influences is the fact that he was responsible originally for Trigger and also something called the Villain Factory, which had a bunch of different villains popping up out of the woodworks. Primarily with people, thanks to Trigger and other doses of drugs, losing control of their quirks. He was even primarily responsible during the Overclock flashback arc in Vigilantes, where there was a fight club where, when things seemed to be compromised, ended up making people go ballistic, starting a bunch of instant villains. Which, these fight clubs were made primarily for him to scout different quirks and steal them, as thanks to Kurogiri, he was able to grab onto people and steal their quirks within seconds. Especially the quirk O'Clock, which belonged to the hero O'Clock, who in this current point of the Vigilantes manga is Knuckle Duster, who is a quirkless vigilante. And this is tied into number 6. The main villain as of right now of My Hero Academia Vigilantes, who has basically the vestige of All for One inside his head, stoking him on, having him basically indulge in his own influences through his own ideals and dreams, and even his own rage and bloodlust, just to be interested. Number 6 was most likely an early experiment for, like, let's say a backup vessel in case Shigaraki failed, or in case All for One being had to be reincarnated through the vestige, as we've seen with Shigaraki, with the vestige basically taking over the main body of Shigaraki for a while as a backup plan in case his main body were to in fact die, and he would essentially live on through the quirk All for One, making him basically immortal. Now, what's going to happen with Vigilantes is still up in the air. How this is going to 100% affect the story of My Hero Academia and what's going on at the moment. But as of right now, the main things from Vigilantes that have been part of All for One's plan was the stockpiling of quirks, the drug Trigger, and the gaining of Oboro Shirakumo, whose near-dead body in the Aizawa flashback arc, and even now in My Hero Academia, was shown to have died in action during an internship, was stolen by All for One and Ujiko and turned into a Nomu, a basic doll to do All for One's bidding, and a super advanced high-end Nomu, to the point where he wasn't even recognizable anymore, and his quirk was changed, mixed, and mutated to be a warping quirk. And it was already revealed in the war arc that All for One and Ujiko planned to steal Aizawa's quirk, but they just settled with Shirakumo's due to the opportunity presented upon them. So it goes to show just how far back All for One has been planning his return to become the ultimate evil. And I have to say, from his fight with All Might basically being the catalyst for accelerating his plans, for making Shigaraki become the next him, having Shigaraki experience failure, having him build a team and relationships, taking on a whole bunch of different obstacles, and even had his own initial defeat in his second fight with All Might during Kamino Ward, take it into account so that Shigaraki can grow much quicker, especially much more quicker than Deku, who is All Might's successor, because without All for One there, Shigaraki would have to grow a lot quicker to essentially meet the standards of his master and even surpass him. I can do a whole other video on Shigaraki as an amazing villain, as he has been built up to be and developed throughout the story of My Hero Academia, but All for One is basically a mastermind manipulator behind the scenes. Whether it be quirk fight clubs, seemingly just for entertainment and money laundering, while that is also essentially something that he is doing so he can have his funds, he is also using that as an opportunity to scout out potential good quirks for not just himself, but also his future successor. Even to the point where he's basically causing this instability between people by having others like go out of control with their quirks, especially thanks to the drug Trigger. And a lot of the main stuff going on in My Hero Academia Vigilantes is directly because of All for One's very own, as he puts them, experiments. He was testing the waters so that he could eventually bring out the change that he wanted, to bring out this era of chaos back when quirks were first manifesting, so that he can be back on top. Despite wanting Shigaraki to be his successor, the next All for One, and grow as his own person, All for One's own greed and ambitions do seem to, well, overwhelm him and even cause him to take over his own disciple. Whether or not he's going to let Shigaraki go is still up in the air, but it is implied that he's going to let Shigaraki go, but as of right now, All For One is in control of not just his own body, but his vestige is in control of Shigaraki's body, fully showing just how powerful All For One's will and essential greed and wants are in the fact that he basically wants to be immortal. While not flat out stated, from his vestige taking over Shigaraki, we can tell that number 6 from My Hero Academia Vigilantes and 9 from the My Hero Academia Heroes Rising movie, which has been more or less confirmed to be canon to an extent. I mean, it does fit into the timeline with a 3-month time skip between My Villain Academia and the Endeavor Agency arc and the War arc alongside the My Hero Academia movie. This all could in fact work. But those characters could have very well been All For One's backups in case Shigaraki's will at the time, at being like at full power, was too strong for All For One to take control of. That way he could still have a way to be in this world, especially if his original body were to in fact die. And it wouldn't matter if his original body died, it would just be an extra bonus, especially right now. And all For One really wants in this world, which I've been dancing around, aside from power and basically being immortal, is the quirk One For All, which has eluded him for practically a century at this point, through 8 different users of One For All, the 9th being Deku, and basically doing everything in his power, sending quirk-based assassins with extra quirks that he has given as a form of contract payment to take down Deku and bring him to him so he can finally steal the quirk and break down Deku's will, wear him out, make him basically apathetic and easy to steal the quirk from, even if the wills of the previous users are still strong. Deku, the initial quirk holder's will, is still weak, then the quirk can in fact be stolen. All For One has been playing the long game, and seeing as how events are playing on in the story, he will probably end up being the penultimate villain for the series. Shigaraki is definitely going to be the final villain of My Hero Academia at this point, and it would just be a huge disappointment, Shigaraki, with all that development and build up to be the next big bad, the next All For One, the next King of Evil, King of Destruction, to be replaced by his predecessor, the original All For One, because of All For One's own greed and ambition to take One For All and be on top. So yeah, All For One is going to be the penultimate villain of the series, leading up to Shigaraki most likely killing him in the end, which that's how everyone's been predicting the end of All For One, with Shigaraki being the one to kill him. And I do see once Shigaraki has fully rested, once his body back up to full strength and his will is stronger than ever, he will overpower the vestige of All For One within him, subdue it, and then maybe kill his master as a form that he no longer needs him and that he can handle things all on his own. But that's all just pure speculation, and there's no real clear way of telling how the story is going to play out. All For One, like I mentioned, is basically the Madara Uchiha and Sosuke Aizen of this series, being someone that has worked his way in the shadows and manipulated certain events and even planned ahead for specific possibilities like his own defeat and specific things with Shigaraki, which I should have mentioned earlier. It is heavily implied that he gave Shigaraki his decay quirk because he saw something in him, and also to spite Nana Shimura, All Might's master and the 7th holder of One For All, seeing as how Shigaraki was initially quirkless from what we could tell. But hey, that's all pure speculation, no clear-cut proof as of yet. This might get revealed later down the road. If you have no real faith or any idea of how great All For One is as a villain at this point, and honestly, how great he is for the story, then I don't know what's wrong with you. If you enjoyed this video, let me know down below by hitting the like button to show your support. Again, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell for updates on future videos. I might get back into doing My Hero content somewhere down the road. I do want to talk about My Hero more, especially as the manga is being really good. And if this video does well, as well as other My Hero videos I might do down the road, then I might end up doing My Hero chapter reviews once more, and hopefully it'll stick this time and I don't get copyright stricken again. But with all that said and done, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I hope you all have an awesome day.